Marco? Let's see.
It's probably Ned.
Hey, Boss, is that you, Boss?
Yo, what's up, guys? It's Isaiah.
Hey, what's good,
Isaiah? Hold on,
Isaiah.
Isaiah.
Hey,
listen, Isaiah, hold on. Don't hang up with us. Stay with us for a second. I'm going to put you on mute because we haven't even really started yet because the CEO, he moves the intro music. He tells me to log in, and I have it set up for when I log in, and he moves the intro music, Tim. Do you believe this? What shenanigans? All right.
He knows that you're not the most tech-savvy guy.
Oh, my God. Oh, my! We need an intern. And he puts me in charge of these things, and it's like complete anarchy. All right, here we go.
Welcome to the Bleed Big Blue podcast, dedicated coverage of the New York Football Giants by your hosts, Marco, Trifecta, T. Merritt, and JBW.
Good morning, Bleed Big Blue Nation. Jimmy D, Trifecta. We got 2 of the 4 today. Justin is birthday blasting. He's got birthday parties going on all day. He's got stuff going on. He's a family man, Justin, good guy. Or was that Marco? Either way, those 2 guys are really busy with family stuff today. Marco kind enough to have us streaming, I believe on Facebook, Twitter, who knows the other places he has us going. So if you're listening, we appreciate it. We got Tim here with us. Lots to talk about this morning. The JPP trade. We'll go over the lawsuit with Odell Beckham Jr. We'll give you definitely draft talk today, wide open. You can call in and join us at 516-453-9383. That number again is 516-453-9383. We always love hearing from you guys. We already have a caller on the line, Isaiah, so we don't want to keep him very long. We'll get to my thoughts and Tim's thoughts as we move along here, but we're all about the people. So, Isaiah, get us started. You were the first one calling in. What do you want to talk about? Thank you for calling. Floor is yours.
Good morning, James and Tim. I wanted to talk to you guys about how do you guys feel about the JPP trade for the 3rd-round pick and the 4th-round pick swap, and what does it mean for the draft for us?
Tim, you want to start us? I think
I absolutely want to take this because
I'll get into my thoughts about it. They really haven't changed, but go ahead, Tim, take it.
Isaiah, you got exactly what I wanted to get into, and what started firing me up throughout all the people talking on, all the sports channels and whatnot, and they pretty much said, "Oh, Giants aren't in win now mode because they traded JPP." I beg to differ. We're trying to do both. We're trying to rebuild and retool. Gettleman wants his own people in. So you know what? He's going to try to get. He did a miracle and pulled an albatross of a contract out of our plans. So we got to deal with it 1 year of dead money, but we have an extra $20 million come next year, and we're going to need that because if we're going to try to re-sign Odell and we got to re-sign Landon Collins, we're going to need at least part of that money. But as far as what it means, I think it's Gettleman's going to put his stamp on this team, and he wants the right people in. One of the things I was definitely hearing, and what makes more sense, was for JPP needed to be more of a leader, and that's the thing he was not doing, especially for the amount of money he was making. And Gettleman wants people to, Gettleman rather have an overachiever than an underachiever in this locker room, and that's what he'll pay for. And that's what I like to see. And that's, as far as I'm concerned, that's the way Giants football should be.
I have a question. Do you guys see the Giants getting Bradley Chubb in the draft with the 2nd overall pick? I don't think so, in my opinion. I still believe that the Giants are going to get either a quarterback or Saquon with the number 2 pick if they don't trade him. That's my opinion, though.
Okay.
I don't see them getting anybody else.
I'm with you, Isaiah. Here's the deal with the Bradley Chubb thing is, from everything I'm reading and everything that I'm seeing, I think Giants are Sam Darnold or we trade back. And, with that being said, what we got going back? It's I think it's Sam Darnold or we trade back. Is Chubb a possibility? Absolutely. Do I think he's going to go number 2? I don't think so. I mean, I'm not saying it wouldn't be a stupid pick at number 2, because how often do you get these top-end defensive ends? And supposedly a lot of people are rating him higher than Myles Garrett, who went number 1 last year. Now, with that being said, I really think we'd be stupid if they want Sam Darnold. There's even talk of us possibly trading up to number 1 to get Sam Darnold. That's not going to happen. If Cleveland wants him that bad, he's just going to take him at 1. If they don't take Sam Darnold, I think Giants are on the phone with everybody because it sounds like we're not sold on every other quarterback. So it would be stupid for us not to trade back. But if we do trade back to, let's say, one person that I keep hearing is Denver, who wants Rosen bad. There's a good possibility we still could get Chubb at 5. Even if we didn't get Chubb, we're going to get one of the 3 blue chippers. Either Barkley, Chubb, or Quentin Nelson. Do you agree, James? Yeah. Okay, or is that, what do you think about that?
All right, Tim.
Yeah, what happened there?
I don't know, Tim. He put me in charge of this board, and there's going to be technical difficulties.
So what do you think?
Here's my thing, right? So I don't think JPP trade has any effect on what's going to happen in the top 5, right? I don't think that number 2 pick. I don't think it necessarily means Chubb. I think here's Giant fan, like the caller said something about either a quarterback or Saquon at 2. Like, no. Nothing's changed. Nothing has changed, okay? It's either you're taking the quarterback that you love at 2, or you're trading back because someone is going to love one of the quarterbacks that are going to be available at 2, and they're going to want to get in front of the Jets. If Darnold goes first, the other teams that love Allen or love Rosen or love Mayfield are going to be terrified that the Jets, knowing that they're going to be taking a quarterback, are going to be taking the guy that they want. So they're going to be trying to trade up with the Giants. The Giant fans have to realize something, that it's either a quarterback at 2 or you trade back. And the target here is to trade back anywhere within the top 7 or so. So what the Giants need to hope is that Buffalo could swing another deal and get in the top 7 or 8. And here's why. Okay, there's 8 players in my opinion, and I have looked up and down. I have watched a ton of film. Okay, there's 8 players in my opinion that Giant fans should be thrilled. Okay, that if we walk away with them and extra picks, right? So
now you got me interested. Who's the 8?
That's what I'm going to tell you, right? So here are my guys, right? So my guys are in with the quarterbacks. Okay, what I would say is, and I'll rank them for you the way I have them. Okay, and it would be Darnold.
Yep.
Rosen.
Okay.
Jackson. Mayfield.
Okay.
Okay. Now you can argue those anyway. Now I have Jackson a lot higher.
That's 1 through 4. Is that 1 through 4?
I have Jackson a lot higher than a lot of people have him. But let me tell you something, man. That whoever gets that kid is a steal. And if you could trade back and get that kid and let him grow for a year or 2 and put some weight on his body, he makes all the plays at the college level. Made every throw. He's electric with his legs. You're concerned about his durability, but you're concerned about any of these guys' durability at the NFL level, right? I mean, how many? You don't get Eli Manning all the time. You don't get Iron Man, right? So you're taking a risk on anybody. But those are the 4 quarterbacks I think you're thrilled if you walk away with one of the guys, right? The other 4 players are Chubb, Barkley, Fitzpatrick, and Nelson. So if you're telling me as a Giants fan, right, that I'm not taking the quarterback out of those four that I love there, or out of the three, because you're not going to – the teams aren't going to take Jackson at 2. Let's speak realistically, right? So you're talking about any of those three quarterbacks. Because if the Giants love Mayfield and they know the Jets love Mayfield, the Giants are going to take Mayfield at 2. I mean, you can hear Giants fans' head exploding all over the place. But
and I'm going to tell you right now, with me,
you sacrifice everything for the quarterback if you love him, right?
And I mean, if
you love the quarterback, whether we agree with it or not, and that's the way I feel about Josh Allen, right? So if they took Josh Allen
at 2 than Baker Mayfield.
Oh, I think you're completely on drugs. If they take Josh Allen, I swear to God, I'm going to be so disappointed. But if they love him and they have conviction in him, whether I like Josh Allen or not, and they say, listen, this is our guy and we're thrilled we got him at 2, then it's going to be a quarterback, right? But if you can trade
totally
back,
agree.
If you can trade back and walk away with Chubb, Fitzpatrick, Barkley, Nelson, and picks, and I think that you can conceivably do that in the top 8, that you're going to get one of those 4 guys, right? Because if the Giants trade out, somebody's trading there for a quarterback. They're not trading up for Barkley. So it's going to be Darnold, quarterback. Then you get to the point where you say, okay, now let's say Cleveland. Right. Let's say somebody else. Let's say Cleveland takes a quarterback. I mean, just throw this scenario out there. Cleveland takes a quarterback, right?
Yeah.
Somebody who's not Denver, right, trades up for the second pick with the Giants, right? Quarterback. Jets take a quarterback, right?
Yeah.
Buffalo's sitting there at 5. Now, all of a sudden, there's only 2 more quarterbacks on the board. Do they trade up with Cleveland? Does somebody try to jump in front of them? So what I'm saying is if the Giants can move back and stay in the top 10, that you're going to walk away if you trade back with a top 4 player, not at the quarterback position, that helps you either on the offensive line with another playmaker on offense, in your defensive secondary, or on your defensive line. You're walking away with huge upgrades in one of those 4 players plus picks. That's the play right now if you're the Giants. I think that has to be the goal. Either get the quarterback you want or walk away with one of those 4 guys and extra picks. Tim, the lines are blowing up. I got 832. I got 832 on hold. He's been on hold for around 7 or 8 minutes. What's your name? Where you calling from? What you want to talk about?
My name is Jay Zach from Texas. I just want to talk about this podcast.
All right. So we got 530 calling in as well.
We got Prank Talker.
530. Where you calling from? What you want to talk about?
I'm calling from Edgewood, Maryland right now, and I know that the draft is still a while away, and I understand Gettleman's steadfast disposition and the decisions that he's faced with. I know this is his first draft with the organization, so everybody's all nervous and wondering which direction it's going to take. Referring to the Eli situation, he's going to start. Everybody knows he's been a championship quarterback. I'm not sure about how many more years he'll make it without getting hurt the older he gets. What do you guys – he's got probably another year or 2. God forbid anything bad happening. He's a good guy. But his body is slower. His arm is not as strong. And if I'm not mistaken, his throws look kind of wobbly on occasion. You know what I'm saying? I don't know that, it's not a good thing to get one of the quarterbacks, regardless.
Yeah, man. Hey, and we didn't hang up on you. You're with us, so stay with us. If you stay on the line, once we get through all the callers, we'll talk a little bit. We'll go through rapid fire. We'll get your thoughts on another subject. So if you want to hang on the line, Isaiah, the other caller, from 530 we just spoke to, please stay with us. If you're listening, 516-453-9383. What are your thoughts, Tim, on what he shared with Eli? I'm of the position of you're not in the top. You're not here often, right? So while you're here with these quarterbacks coming out, if you love one, it would be smart to take one. And let's remember that while we all hope Davis Webb would be the answer and that maybe the Giants feel that way, maybe they don't feel that way, okay, we got to remember that every team in the NFL passed on Davis Webb twice, including the Giants, before they took him. So, what are your thoughts, Tim, Eli? I mean, the guy's been an Iron Man. You don't want to take anything away from him, but again, are we just, putting all our eggs in that he's never going to get hurt basket? What about getting older, his body breaking down a little?
Here's the deal. Our motto, what it's been for about 2 months. Take a quarterback or trade back. It makes no sense otherwise at number 2.
No,
but the more I've been looking into it, it's almost like, at least it seems like, the conviction is on Sam Darnold. He's the one with the least amount of question marks out of the quarterbacks. It almost sounds like we're waiting at 2 just to hope that Sam Darnold doesn't go at number 1. And
so you think there'll be a lot of action? You think there'll be a lot of action when they're on the clock?
And that's the other thing. It's like, okay, screw it. We're gonna wait. We're gonna hope that Cleveland will take Sam Darnold, because if he doesn't, then if they don't, then they're gonna be all over it and take Sam Darnold at 2. Otherwise,
you see, I go back.
Screw it.
I go back
Let's
to
see
something.
what the trade is.
I go back to something Jordan Renan said a good 6 weeks ago now, and we've mentioned it on this podcast a couple of times, and a lot of the beat writers have agreed with the thought that Jordan had and what he tweeted a couple of weeks ago, and it pretty much said that what the Giants were really upset about over the last couple of years, if you remember going into the draft, how many times in the last handful of years have teams jumped right in front of us and taken a player that might have helped us out significantly and that was of value for that spot, right? A couple of tackles, Floyd comes to mind, right? So the new regime has really, it looks like, has been putting out a lot of misinformation. So, the stuff with Mayfield that comes out today, the stuff about, Rosen and talking to him at the combine and all this stuff, it seems to be swaying Barkley from player to player to Chubb to player to player. You really, how much of any of that is true? I wouldn't, really, we report on these things and we tweet them and we put them out there and as the reporters do, we don't know what, if Darnold is that guy. We don't know if they think Mayfield. We don't know if they hold these analytics numbers that came out recently about Mayfield and how he plays against top talent and how he plays against under pressure and his accuracy. You don't know if Shermer's like, hey, give me, Shermer's the wild card here. Because Shermer's going to have a huge say as to say, hey, man, this guy would be perfect for me. And we don't know who that guy is. I mean, there's a lot of assumptions, but we don't know who that guy is. 347, you just joined us. Who do you think that guy I'm sorry, not 347, 917. You just called in. Who's that guy?
Oh. Hey, two things I got to do. One,
can I say something? Callers, when you call in, it's a Sunday morning. We need some energy. Give me a little energy when we put you on the line.
All right.
Give me a little energy.
First and foremost.
I'm like 12 cups of fucking coffee in. This guy's sleeping.
I gotta fucking tell.
There we go. A little energy. We're talking Giants football. Show me some blood.
We are not taking Mayfield. And J-Zac, we are taking a quarterback or we're trading back, and it's not going to be Mayfield because Mayfield.
You know what? Give that a clap for him going after the intern. Give that a clap for going after the intern.
717.
No idea where it is. No idea where it is.
717.
717, you're on. We got tons of calls. I got to get to 2 more callers. I got Justin who just called in. Come on, 717. Where you at? What do you want to talk about?
Yeah, 717 here. Oh, sorry.
I got 2, Justin. We got Lancaster brothers all over the place. Go ahead.
Okay. Go ahead. 717 here. Yo.
Yeah.
So no matter what the Giants do, if they draft Rosen or whoever they draft, if they don't show up the middle of the field and pose the will with a guard or center, we're just going to have the Eagles will push us through the middle. We're not going to be able to do anything. The quarterback won't be able to step up in the pocket to throw the ball anyway. reshore the offensive line. We got a left tackle. That's great. But if we're getting pressure up the middle, it doesn't mean jack squat. So
well, you want it. So what are you saying? You want to take Nelson at 2?
No, fuck no. I
Okay.
Rosen. I like he's intelligent. He had 3 offensive coordinators in 3 years, and he memorized the playbooks. He's really intelligent. He has a beautiful arm.
Great point.
If they don't pick a quarterback, you got to trade back. And I like Nelson, probably like the 6th pick, because I think the Colts are going to want to trade back. Or I don't know who are you going to trade with.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're good.
Buffalo,
Keep going.
Whether it's Buffalo or Arizona or whoever they're going to trade back, we have to shore up the middle of the offensive line. So when we won our Super Bowls, we imposed our freaking will. Imposed our will on the other teams with the offensive defensive line. We ain't doing that anymore. The last couple of years, we keep drafting players that are away from the offensive line or the defensive line, and we just became weak and soft. And we played this spread offense. I love the running back Geist out of LSU. He could easily fall to the 2nd round. And that running back is tough as nails. Also, like San Diego State, I think it's San Diego State, Penny, that boy is tough.
Yeah.
So
well, you know what? Here's a name. I know I've done a lot of research on these running backs because I really Barkley at 2 concerns me. I think you can take him and trade back. But here's a guy that I absolutely love that really nobody's talking about, and I think you can get him at 34, and I think he'd be great value there. Is Sony Michel. Like, I think that nobody is mentioning this guy whatsoever. And let me tell you something, gentlemen. Go watch film on this kid run the football and how physical he is and his ability in the open field, pretty good hands, played against top-end talent. Nobody's mentioning this kid. Imagine trading back, acquiring more picks, and using one of those top 30 picks or an early second rounder on a kid like Sony Michel. Love that kid.
I have no problem with the kid, but you know I'm on the Nick Chubb train, so I like the bigger backs.
And I can't. But what I'm saying is, when you look at the running backs that you can get later that can have tremendous value, I think you have to consider that you're right. It's either a quarterback or trade back right there. 347. Justin, we'll get to you. Justin, give us your thought. 347. You're live with us, but hold on, Justin. Go ahead. What do you got?
I just want.
Hello. How are you?
Hold on, boss.
No, go ahead. It's fine, because I'm going to be long-winded. I got to get it all out in 10 minutes.
Go.
Let him go first.
Okay.
Caller, 347, you're on the line. What you got for us?
Yeah, good afternoon. How you doing?
Good afternoon. How are you, sir?
Good. First off, I'm not buying the quarterback stuff at all. All right, I'm definitely not buying it. If you compare, first off, there's no Eli's in this draft. There's no Big Bens in this draft. There's no Rivers in this draft. No way. Okay,
how
so
can you say that?
Really? How can I say it? Because I've seen tape.
Yeah.
I've watched games. Do you compare? Are you going to compare this class to those guys? All borderline Hall of Famers? Are you kidding me?
I think that when you see no, I'm not kidding you. I think that when you look at the tape and you look at how these kids eat the potential, you have to look at Darnold is 20 years old. He's a baby.
Yeah, I get all of that. But
Jackson
is
20 years old. Jackson is 20 years old, and he played in an offensive system that he had to make every read.
I'm not talking about Jackson.
Rosen is the only one that could play right now. He can make every throw on the field. As the caller before you said, he learned 3 offenses in 3 years. The kid's a genius. I mean, Mayfield ranks higher than all of them analytically against pressure and might have played against the best competition. I mean, each one of these kids
Rosen
is
with his concussions and shoulder surgery. That doesn't count.
That's a concern for everybody. I mean, that's a concern for any player you take in the draft.
Listen, if the Giants believe that Davis Webb, and I've never seen him play, you guys, we haven't really seen him play. If they think that he's comparable to the quarterback class that's coming out this year, and remember what Gettleman said, at number 2, if you believe, now this could be smoke, if you think at number 2 that whoever they pick is someday going to wear a gold jacket, you take him. End of story. So here's the deal. We've been screaming for an offensive line, fix the offensive line.
right?
Oh, you can't.
Let me tell you something. The best player in this draft outside of Barkley is Quentin Nelson. End of story.
I think you're wrong. You do not take a guard at 2. You might as well blow up the franchise.
I know what Football 101 says.
You do not take a guard at 2.
I understand that.
Do it.
But if they compare, and they have been comparing Quentin Nelson to John Hanna, who's a Hall of Famer, okay? They're saying he's the best guard coming out in the last 20 years. It has to be considered.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It doesn't have to be considered, and it's asinine.
Let me ask you a question.
It's asinine to consider it. It's
let me ask you a question.
Right now. Let me ask. You can mask. If I have a quarterback, if I believe that quarterback is my guy, okay, regardless of what the Giants think. Regardless of what the Giants think, out of the teams in this league that are salivating for a quarterback, there is going to be a team. There is going to be a team that is going to say, "Take my picks, please," because I don't want Nelson, and I don't want Barkley, and I don't want Chubb, and I don't want Fitzpatrick. Take all of my picks. I need a quarterback. So if you're the Giants, there are 2 options. You either are in love with the quarterback and you take the guy there, or you trade out for a king's ransom. There is no other option. You do not.
I have no argument with you there.
It is long-term franchise suicide to take Barkley, Chubb, Nelson, anybody else there because of the package that you'll get for the quarterback.
I agree with the caller. The fact that Nelson is, if we can trade back whatever amount of picks, let's say to 6 or whatever, and we still get Nelson, hell yeah.
Yeah, but let me tell you something. But I'll be honest with you.
The problem with taking Nelson at 2 is I can get a guy like, for example, Willie Hernandez later in the round, if not in the beginning of the second, who is not on the same level as Nelson, but he's pretty damn close. And there's a lot of cards that are in this draft.
If you told me we're trading back in that top 8 range, the first 2 players that I would pick if I'm the Giants, it would either be I'd be targeting either Chubb or Fitzpatrick. I would have Barkley and Nelson after those guys because of the fact that I can get tremendous depth for running backs and offensive linemen later on in this draft, especially if I'm trading back. Especially if I'm trading back. 4-6, where you calling from? What do you want to talk about? We've been on hold for a minute. What's up, buddy? 646, you're there. Yeah,
hey,
what's up, buddy? What are you going to talk about?
Yeah, so this is what I wanted to say. Quentin Nelson is out of the question. You don't take a guard, even if you trade down with Denver. And Denver is the only option that's the only team that I would actually trade down with because it's either going to be Saquon Barkley. Just listen for one second. It's either going to be Saquon Barkley or Bradley Chubb at 5. The Giants are waiting right now. They're not trading because all the leverage is in their hand. They're going to wait till the last second so someone offers even more, than what they're offering now. You know what I mean? They're going to wait last second. And whoever offers the most likely they'll probably end up going. They could go down to the Bills, but most likely it's going to be Denver because they're going to get either Bradley Chubb or Saquon Barkley. And you take Bradley Chubb over Quentin Nelson any day. Why? Because pass rushers you can't find 6th, 5th round. Pass rushers like this, first of all, there's not a lot of pass rushers in the league in the first place. You need a pass rush. You don't have a pass rush, you're done. No matter how good your secondary is, no matter, if you have, one of the top, 5 corners or whatever, it doesn't matter. You need a pass rush. And to get a blue chip guy like that, like Bradley Chubb, you know what I mean? So you're not going to have an opportunity like that to get a pass rusher that's of his caliber in any other future draft if we're not going to draft in the top 5. You know what I mean?
Oh, 100%. I totally agree with that.
Listen, this is what I want to say.
Go ahead, Justin.
So this is what I want to say.
Go ahead.
I want us to look at Giants history, right? We're all talking about the last time the Giants went deep into the playoffs. That was centered around an offensive line. That offensive line featured a right guard in David Deal that was taken in the 5th round. It featured a left guard, Chris Snee, that was taken in the beginning of the 2nd round.
Yep.
The draft is about positional importance. Remember, there's 32 other teams. We'd like to say that oftentimes, people that we talk to get in this mindset where the Giants are the only team. There's 32 other teams. And quarterback, the most important position on the field. If you have a chance to take a quarterback that you believe in, you do it. And you can find those other positions later. The fact of the matter is that is probably what Gettleman is setting him up for. The JPP trade was masterful.
Oh,
Picked up
beautiful.
an extra 3rd-round pick, got rid of his albatross of a contract, got rid of a player that only plays when he's motivated, and sent him to a place where he wants to play. He's from South Florida.
Yeah, if I'm Captain Negative, he's Captain Complacent.
Gettleman, that was a perfect move by Gettleman.
Yeah, 100%.
Right
Totally
JPP.
I love the JPP trade. Love it.
He did right by JPP, and he made it happen. And he freed up cap space so that next year we can still improve this team. Gettleman, I know we had some questions right off the jump when Norwell didn't work out correctly, but he's played this offseason pretty good. I mean, and it lets me know that he knows exactly where.
Except for Jonathan Stewart.
I'll say it again. Hear me, Jimmy. Jonathan Stewart is not our starting running back. He might be our.
I know.
back.
I just wanted to throw that in there and bust your balls. I only got you like 10 minutes.
Jonathan Stewart is going to lead us in goal line touchdowns.
He's going to bring in our starting running back is not on this team. Now, where that running back will be picked, I don't think that it's Barkley. I don't think that it's unless.
I think it's going to a 3rd-round pick. One of those 3rd-round picks that's going to be a running back.
Justin, what are your thoughts on Sony Michel? Because we've talked a lot about Chubb and we've talked a lot about, I don't call them guys, I call them Jewess. So we've talked a lot about those guys later on. What are your thoughts on Sony? Because I don't think Sony Michel is a 3rd-round pick. I think you're going to have to take him early in the 2nd.
No,
he's going to be at 34 through 40. Early though, like he's not going to make it to 45, 46, 47. He's too good of a player. So what are your thoughts on taking him at like 34, especially if you traded back and got a couple extra picks?
I think it's going to be one of the Georgia boys in the 2nd round. I think Jewess is going late 1st round, and I think that's going to put a premium on those 2 running backs early in the 2nd round. And, Sony Michel, he and Nick Chubb, obviously they were teammates. They were both dynamic playmakers. I think that Sony Michel has a little bit more of that playmaking gene, whereas I view Chubb as more of like a battering ram, sort of.
Draft them both.
Between the tackle and runner.
There we go. We draft them both.
So,
acquire a shit ton of picks and draft them both.
I think it's one of those 2, and I think I think whoever it is the starting running back week 1, snap 1 for the New York Football Giants.
We got a couple of other callers calling in. I see the CEO there. We went to him, but I know he's got birthday parties going on. He might have been around the kids because he was on hold for a minute. So we'll get back to the CEO. Want to make sure we get in contact with him. I got 2 other guys calling in. Justin, are you going?
No, I just want to say one more thing.
Go.
About Gettleman and the way that he structured the beginning of this draft, and then I'll stay in as long as I can, but I may have to drop off.
Okay.
The way that he structured the beginning of this draft, he's played it perfectly.
Yes.
He's sitting at 2.
I agree.
He picked up an extra pick. There's been a few moves around him at the top of the draft, things that have happened, and he's sitting in the catbird position, being the latest one to make a move. Now, in conjunction with that, we've heard stories connecting them to all 4 major quarterbacks within the last week.
Yep.
We heard Josh Rosen talk about him. Chris Canty was on ESPN earlier last week saying that they love Sam Darnold, that Sam Darnold was the guy if he was there. There were stories about how they're interested.
He said he'd be willing to trade up. They may be willing to trade up to get Sam Darnold. How about that?
Right.
Can you imagine the fan base exploding? Go ahead, Justin.
Well, how pissed would you be, James?
And today we read the story that they've done their due diligence on Baker Mayfield and that they're ready to go on him. So, meanwhile, they've put the fear in God of the rest of the roster with the trade of JPP, and any player could go at any time. They're in a prime position. They've convinced the league that they could trade players to get extra picks. They don't necessarily have to trade back now, or the league isn't convinced that they have to trade back now to get extra picks. And so if a deal comes along that they can't refuse, if somebody steps up and makes that Godfather offer, makes them an offer that they can't refuse, then they take it, and they take Quentin Nelson. But you can get a player that can be an impact on the offensive line late in the draft. They are going to take a quarterback or maybe Bradley Chubb at 2, maybe. But I even think that if they're going to take Chubb, I think that would require a trade back. People want these quarterbacks.
Yes.
And the caller
that
said that Rosen is too injury prone and he's afraid, we could all get hit by buses. We could all get hit by buses tomorrow, and then, God forbid, Big Blue Interactive is no more. You do due diligence on injuries. You see if.
First of all, we are not Big Blue Interactive.
Did I say Big Blue?
Wow. First of all, CEO. I hope Marco didn't hear that.
Yeah. Just keep going.
Please, Big Blue. I'm fired up, and I'm trying to move quickly.
Wow. Are you moonlighting, Justin?
No. I'm not.
You forgot who you work for?
No, I'm not. Anyway, we could all get hit by a bus tomorrow. You can't draft in fear. What you do is you do due diligence on Rosen. You see if the injuries are systemic, and if it's issues with his body. But if you don't find that and you think he's the most talented quarterback and you think that he could lead this franchise for 15 years so that you don't have to pay Sam Bradford $20 million for one season next year, then you take him. And you tell Eli, hey, look, this is the guy you're going to take over the next year or two to transition over, but then we're going with it. What the Packers did with Rodgers, that worked out pretty good, right?
Yeah, I don't blame you. To me, that's the deal too. If you love one of these kids, you take them. 716 calling in. You've been on hold for a minute. What's up? What do you want to talk about? 716, you there? Fumbling. He's out. All right, you're a ghost. 347. Where you calling from? What do you want to talk about?
Rich, I'm calling from Brooklyn.
What's up, buddy? What do you want to talk about, my man?
Actually, I want to talk about trading the pick. Unless they fall in love, first, I don't like Rosen. It doesn't seem like a team leader. Everybody on the team usually seems, or at least from what you hear, hates them.
No, that's not what we've heard. Where did you hear that? Hold on, wait a minute. Stop. Where did you hear that from? Because that's not what. Like, I've seen multiple teammates come out and support him and be like, bullshit. So, like, the one reporter that reported that said that he doesn't get along with his teammates, like, stop with that narrative. They loved him. So,
great,
next point.
Great, even better if they love him, because I want people to want all of these quarterbacks. Unless we love a quarterback that we want to draft, I'm calling Buffalo, and I'm telling Buffalo, the Patriots are about to fall apart, and wouldn't you like to stick it to the Jets and jump right up in front of them, right before them to draft the quarterback you want? And the starting point is 3 first-round picks. There are 2 first rounds this year and next year's first round, and that's where we're starting.
Here's my concern. Here's my concern about Buffalo, right? My concern about Buffalo is I think you're trading too far back. My hope is this. My hope is that Buffalo can find a way to get into the top 8 from where they are without giving up that first round pick.
I'll give you the pick.
Right?
That's the wild card pick. The Indianapolis pick is is good. A wild card pick because Buffalo can get to that where Indy doesn't need a quarterback, so they could trade back again. So if Buffalo's willing to give Indy something,
you want to get to the 6th pick to draft who exactly though? To Chubb? I mean, the things I see from Chubb are at least. I want
to stay in the top 8 because I'm content. If I stay in the top 8, I'm content walking out of this draft, considering that if I get into the top 8, I'm assuming that in the top 8 there's going to be 4 quarterbacks taken. So I'm walking away. I'm walking away in the top 8 with either Chubb, Fitzpatrick, Barkley, or Nelson, and picks.
I mean, to be honest, shouldn't there be quarterbacks taken all the way to 5? I mean, all the way.
There
to
could be. There could be.
Absolutely.
I mean, let's be honest. If the Giants trade back, this quarterback's taken all the way to 5, and I don't see any way.
There could be. There could be. You're 100% right. There could be quarterbacks taken all the way to. You don't know. And once one quarterback goes, the other quarterbacks become that more valuable. So if Darnold goes first and somebody trades up for Allen to go 2, and then the Jets. Can you imagine if the Jets are in love with Mayfield? I mean, it could conceivably go like this to where you have Darnold go 1, somebody trade up because they love Allen, then you get the Jets who love Mayfield, and at 4, Rosen's sitting on the board. Are you telling me there wouldn't be teams salivating to get in contact with Cleveland to get that pick at 4? And then once he goes, the lust for Jackson becomes that much bigger because he's the one that's left. So that value goes up. As every one of those guys go off the board, the next one becomes that much more valuable. 910, where you calling from? What do you want to talk about? Fangul, let's go.
What's going on, Big Blue? Calling from
It's a tongue twister. What's up, buddy?
All right, I want to talk about, the draft is coming up. I think we should trade back. I'm in the mindset of believing, we could work with Eli for right now. We haven't seen what we got in Davis Webb. I know that other teams have passed on him, and, we took him as a 3rd round, but we still have yet to see what he has. My belief is we need to address the line and the defensive line first, and I think we should either draft one of the 2, Georgia, and probably like the 2nd round if they're still around.
So you're of the opinion of trade back. You'd like to target Nelson. I'm surprised not many Giant fans. You don't hear Fitzpatrick. A lot of these guys are not mentioning Fitzpatrick. You hear Barkley, Chubb, Nelson, no Fitzpatrick. That's surprising. But you're of the mindset of trading back, acquiring Nelson, and then getting to the running backs later because there's good value later on in the draft.
Oh, yes. You know what I'm saying? It's a nice – I mean, I wouldn't mind taking Saquon, but it's we have other holes we could fill, and we just made another hole on the defensive line, even though we could wait and draft later, but, like we waited 3 rounds to draft a 2 rounds to draft a running back last year, right? And how did that pan out for us,
Yeah.
So we need.
Yeah. I think we lost him. Well, actually, he's still with us, but he's on hold. 609, where you calling from? What do you want to talk about? Draft, JPP, what's up?
I'm calling from Jersey.
What's up, Jersey? What's up?
I want to talk about Texas Tech University. They played a pretty big game tonight, but that's not the sport that relates to us. But how do you think about Mayfield, how he got beat out by Webb a couple of years ago, and how that plays back to what's going on now?
You're cut out there, but I think you wanted to get to the whole Webb-Mayfield conundrum in college, right?
Mayfield beat out Webb in college.
Mayfield beat out Webb in college, and I really don't hold too much merit in that. I mean, it could be just the coaches had a preference or something like that. I don't think that dismisses. I mean, hey, let's be honest. I mean, I heard a couple of weeks ago that
if Davis Webb was in this draft, that he would probably be a top 8 to 10 prospect. He wouldn't be in the same conversation as these three guys are, and there are reasons for that. And I looked at Webb last year as we went into the draft, and after we took him, and I watched his college tape and looked at a lot of stuff, and his footwork was pretty bad. Has there been an improvement from the tapes that we've seen that have been released on number one pick, but the number one running back on the board? And the quarterbacks, I'm not too big on any of the quarterbacks. It's either they're all the same or one is slightly bigger. And if we were to draft a quarterback, I'm saying I would want Baker Mayfield because he's the biggest winner out of all of them. Look what happened when he played Alabama's defense. He tore that defense apart, which 90% of the quarterbacks in college could not do. You know what I mean? Yes. I mean, you have to give some credence to – I know a lot of people are very quick to dismiss. It's amazing to me how many people will be like, hey, did you see him at the Combine? And I'm like, yeah, I saw him throw 70 yards in shorts and a T-shirt, but did you watch him play on Saturdays? Like, because when I watched – and that's why I'm so shocked that not a lot of Giant fans and the Johnny Manziel comparison, like stop it. Like hold Baker to his own merits. Like, don't just compare him to other people. It's completely unfair to him. I mean, when the kid played on Saturdays, he played lights out, and he played against phenomenal competition. The bigger the game, the better he played. I don't see how you can, not be intrigued by him. I think, honestly, that there's 4 quarterbacks that if the Giants walked away with any of them, I'd be pretty happy about. And I'd be really, I don't think, considering that they're not going to have to play for a year, possibly 2, I'd even be more, excited about the possibility of having a guy like Rosen or Darnold or Jackson or Mayfield sitting for a year under Eli or 2 years under Eli and not having to throw them into the fire. I think that if you love the quarterback, you take the quarterback. I don't think that there's any ifs, ands, or buts about that. I mean, that's what you have to do. 347. Hold on. Did he hang up? Yep, 347 hung up. 973 with us. Hey, we're good. We got to everybody, Tim.
All right. So I want to get something.
Go ahead.
The one thing that Webb gives us. The one thing that Webb gives us that people aren't realizing is because he has such a great work ethic and he's doing what he's got to do. Unless we love the quarterback we're going after, we have conviction over that quarterback, we don't need to grab a gamble. There's somebody that, I sort of like him. I don't need to bring that guy.
No, you love him when you trade the pick.
Yes. Exactly. And that way, you don't have to gamble. The other thing is, as far as I want to get to the Baker Mayfield, Johnny Manziel comparison, which is ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. If you don't like Mayfield, just don't like Mayfield on his own accord, but don't compare him to Johnny Manziel. Yeah,
as far as Manziel, if you guys want to look back at his college tape,
Manziel would outran the cops. That's all I'm going to say.
90% of the times that he broke out and made a play, the reason he got the bombing down the field is because he had Mike Evans as his wide receiver. As you can see, Mike Evans is another world talent. That's the reason I can just throw it up to some 6'5" wide receiver that's dominating people, where he wasn't throwing to anybody else. Mayfield spread it around. That's a whole different kind of player. Mayfield just did what he had to do to win. Manziel did what he had to do to toss it up to Mike Evans. At least that's what I saw on film.
We still got a bunch of people on the line. I'm going to go rapid fire. We'll go through callers. If you're ready, get yourself ready. Come up with a point that you want to make, secondary to what you might have spoken about before. let me see how many callers we have. We have 1, 2. We got 530. You'll be up first. 717 on deck.
You know what?
Third.
Let me get to one question for you, James. One question for you.
Hold on. We'll get to it. Let me give these guys their order that they're going to be in. So if we're going to go rapid fire, they know that they're coming up. 530-717-917. Batting cleanup 973. 646 batting fifth. 732 will be our last rapid fire. But go ahead, Justin. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tim. Go ahead with your question.
Well, here's the question. There's been the rumor, and you know what? I believe Chris Canty's sources more than I believe a lot of people, because obviously he knows people inside the organization. And he was talking about Giants are all about Darnold, and they're actually talking about even trading up for Darnold.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if that happens, what would you be like for it to move up literally one spot? How pissed would you be? What do the Giants need to do where it'd be okay for you?
I would.
Like,
I'm not like if you're going to tell me that that's your guy, and you wanted to make sure that you got your guy because this was the guy that you wanted to take over for Eli, and that he was the one. I'm fine with it. Go get him. Like if they have conviction, I mean, we did. You expect these guys to do their due diligence and do their job, and if they're going to tell me that out of all the information that they've got and all the tape that they've watched and all the one-on-ones they've had with these guys and all the conversations that they've had with these guys, if they tell me that there's a need to trade up to Cleveland because they love that guy that much and they want to make sure that they get him over everyone else, I'm fine with it. If they have conviction doing it, fine with it. Absolutely fine with it. Like the quarterback position is that important that if you get, I've said it a bunch of times, and I don't know why it's difficult for people to really get this, right? So with the offensive lineman and the defensive line, if you have a quarterback, okay, if you have a good quarterback, if you have one of these guys, okay, you can have your quarterback mask other deficiencies that you have on the team. You cannot mask not having a quarterback. It's obvious. When you don't have the quarterback, your whole offense is crippled. Go look around the league at some of the teams that get, some of the quarterbacks that get fielded on Sunday afternoon, and then sit down and watch how putrid some of these offenses look on a Sunday afternoon. And you're a step away with Eli from making the wrong decision with Webb and being in that spot. So it's so important. And when you have these many kids coming out, and that's why I've said, if you're going to trade back, if you're going to do this, if you're not picking one of these guys, you better be right. You better be right. Because if any one of these four kids end up being as good as a lot of people think they can be, and if all four of them end up walking away here and Eli is no longer the quarterback and you don't win a Super Bowl in the next 2 years, and you're struggling with Davis Webb or trying to draft a quarterback or getting one in free agency or going back and forth and having to play this Russian roulette with a quarterback, and one of these kids 3 years from now is coming into his own and goes on and has a 10-year career, 12, 15-year career, you look like shit as a franchise.
Oh, and I agree
right.
with that. But
You
the
better
only
be right.
thing with this quarterback class is, and you would agree, at least, what, three of them, you have to sit for a year. If you want between Darnold,
I don't think
Allen,
you have to sit
Lamar
them for the year. I don't think you have to sit any of them for a year. I'm not of the mindset of it's best for a quarterback.
Best case scenario.
Well, I think the best case scenario. I think the best case scenario for every player is to play. I really do. Like I don't like, even if it's over their heads a little bit, I think that you learn more from playing than you do standing on the sideline. Okay, so I think that there could be advantages to both. But I think that if you had a look at the quarterbacks that would be more beneficial to sitting for a year or two and be in the position to where it fits for the Giants, you're probably looking at Darnold being 20 years old, Jackson being 20 years old. I think having Rosen or Mayfield in that situation is a problem, not because of the fact that they're unable to do it or it's not in their best interest, but I don't think their personalities fit in sitting. I think that Rosen and Mayfield's personality is I want to play. Like, I'm going to play, I want to play, I want to play. And I think that's not exactly a bad thing to have for your quarterback, right? I mean, I want a kid that wants to get on the field, that wants to beat out Eli Manning, that thinks he's better than Eli Manning. Like, get me that guy, right? Yeah. Now, some of them I think may be beneficial. I think Jackson is one of those guys where if you traded back to 10, 11, 12, and you said to me that Jackson was our guy all along, and your goal is to let him sit for a year or two and learn under Eli and put 10 to 12 pounds on his body so that he physically matures to where you're going to use him in the offense, I can't argue with that. Like, if you're telling me that you're getting the quarterback that you want, I'm with you. Let's get to these callers. 530, let's go. You've been on hold for a minute. We appreciate you calling in. If you guys are listening, 516-453-9383. We get to all of our callers. We got around an hour left in the show if we want it. 530 started off with a little rapid fire.
Okay, man. I was listening to you guys' conversation there. What it boils down to with Gettleman is what he perceives as the priority is because with Shermer's ability to develop quarterbacks, it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to gun for the top-tier quarterbacks. And as far as the egos go and wanting to come in and push Eli off the spot, the organization's not going to let that happen. He's already delivered 2 rings. That's why they're still as loyal to him to this day, even though he's sucked. I mean, he's turned the ball over. His ball security is not good. And I don't think that the Giants have a problem with black quarterbacks, to be honest. It's not that issue. But I think if we were to ever get a black quarterback, you saw with Geno Smith and some of the other ones, there was a few other – they weren't really scrambling or the Jackson Vic-esque quarterbacks. You know what I mean? That's just not their system. But I do agree with the comments about Sony Michel. I believe, in my opinion, that he is going to be talked about just the same as Saquon Barkley. And that's just something that people don't see. His combination is I look at body language and demeanor, and there's no intimidation, but yet
he plays mean, right? He plays with a mean. He runs mean. He runs mean, Sony Michel.
Yes, and he also has the finesse of the dead leg. Like he changed gears and dropped that leg, and it's just such an important accessory to have as a running back. And
he has great vision. He could stop on a dime. He changes direction on a dime. He gets up the field. But the thing that intrigues me a lot about him is just he runs mean. He runs with a fire, and I think that's contagious. That is contagious for a team.
Well, and I also, just to add this in right quick, now having 2 third-round picks, I wouldn't be surprised, New York Nation, if for some reason something happens between now and the draft and OBJ gets traded for two second-rounders or maybe I mention this purely because
the sound you just heard is Giant fans' heads exploding all over the place at the mention of OBJ being traded. Go ahead, buddy.
The organization, everybody who's ever been a problem, whether it was Shockey, Burris, JPP eventually got – I mean, the only ones that they allow to do the things that have happened like LT is LT. Nobody else has got to show out in the organization. And LT was an icon. OBJ is not. He has not even proved that his antics that he performed before the game, besides that one catch that he can actually put into the game. It's hard for him to impose his will because his emotion is so soft. So,
woo! Oh, God.
Let me tell you something. I like that guy. You can call him whenever he wants. He's still with us. I like that guy. a lot. We're gonna get to the rapid fire. We got a new caller calling in. Unfair not to get to them. 201 just called in. What you want to talk about? Where you calling from?
Yeah, from Jersey. Just want to touch base on a little bit of the history with Gettleman and Shermer in the draft.
Go ahead.
If you look back at Shermer, back when he was head coach of the Browns, his first draft he traded back. He moved back with Atlanta. Atlanta ended up picking up Julio Jones.
Mm-hmm.
Shermer ended up with D tackle. I'm trying to remember Phil Taylor, I think it was. And the following years, with the pick he picked up from Atlanta, he ended up getting Whedon. And with his original pick, he got Trent Richardson. So there might be like a historical lesson to learn there. Maybe he was impacted by that somehow. I mean, we all know
God,
he'd be
let's
better
hope
off.
so. Right?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, just using that, looking at Saquon Barkley, who I don't get the hype with Barkley. I mean, look at his game versus Rutgers. Look at the game versus Ohio State. I mean, what are people seeing? He was held to under 100 yards 8 times. That's not good.
Well, I think people see his explosive ability. I think that there is a level of intrigue on him, and people hold the combine, I think, especially for running backs, way too much weight, right? I mean, he ran a 4.440, or 4.340. Well, he's not going to be running straight ahead with nobody in front of him in the NFL, right? And I think one of the things that really concerns me about Barkley is his ability to run between the tackles. I think that if you can't run between the tackles, with your and someone posted, I was laughing the other day on Twitter. Someone posted, for those who think that Saquon Barkley can't run between the tackles, watch this. And every freaking run that ran between the tackles ended up out of the read option. And I'm like, you're not running out of the read option in the NFL. It's going to be a tight end. There's going to be a 2 tight end set. The quarterback's going to be under center. You're going to have a fullback. And you have to consistently, at least 18 to 22 times a game, if you're going to be the bell cow, wham up between that. And the runs that you really need him to make, and the explosive runs are great, but if you're going to be a balanced offense, what you really want is those 3, 4, you get hit a yard or 2, fall forward for 3 or 4, a 5 or 6 yard run. You want consistent moving of the chains, 3rd and shorts. Can he do that on an NFL level? I don't know, and I'm not willing to take him with the 2nd pick to find out.
Now, can I make a quick comment on the Georgia backs?
Go ahead, definitely. We've talked about Sony Michel and Chubb. Go ahead. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Both of them seem to have a hard time hanging on to the ball. That kind of scares me a little bit.
A little scary, but that could be coached. I mean, but ball can. We've seen it with Tiki in the past. Right, we've seen it, and a lot of people have said that about Darnold too. What about the turnovers? Ball security, I think, could be coached. I think if you believe in a guy's talent, if you like him, you have to feel that maybe the coaching staff could help him with that. But great point. Both of them have a tendency to slip a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Good podcast, guys. I listen every week. Take care, guys.
Hey, man, we appreciate you calling in. Feel free to call in again. We really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you for the compliment. We do this so that we could talk to other Giant fans and share our thoughts and yell at each other and scream at each other and have some fun and some laughs doing so. 917 just called in again. We're going to get to rapid fire. We got the other guys hanging on the line, but a new caller, 917. Marco, is that you, buddy?
This is me.
Hey,
this
boss.
Hold on.
I don't want to rat, but
oh, come on, don't stop it. Don't throw Justin under the bus like that. Oh, what a rat. That's why nobody liked you at camp, Tim.
Sorry, my phone went down for a second.
That's why nobody liked you at camp, Tim. You were the first one to rat if people snuck a chocolate in, if we tried to go over to across the lake to go to the girls' camp. Tim was the first one on the phone with the counselor. They're trying to do something.
You know what I've been thinking? I've been monitoring the Browns and see what they're doing. And I go back to Peter King's original thought that they liked Josh Allen best out of all of them. So I think
that was the initial thought.
I think from the Browns, they're playing the game that maybe they're playing up Josh Allen, but they really want Darnold. Even yesterday, they tweeted one of Josh Allen's private workouts where he's like bombing it. The kid does have an arm. So I think they're playing it up just to see what's the most value they could get and, putting their own.
They could be playing it up because of us, if you think about it. If they could be playing up the fact that they want Darnold because they know we want Darnold. And if they want Josh Allen anyway, so if they switch picks,
that's the
beauty. You get Darnold, we get an extra pick.
That's the beauty.
And we get Josh Allen anyway.
That's the beauty.
Exactly what I'm saying.
That's the beauty of this time of year. You don't know what these guys are thinking. They're all lying. They're all playing poker.
Yeah.
And you don't know until And we could be talking about all these teams, and it could be a team that we're not even thinking that makes a huge move up and does something crazy to try to acquire one of these guys. You don't know who really likes who doesn't like who. You want teams thinking that you like as many guys as possible. So these reports that every team is enamored with these quarterbacks is not surprising. I mean, it's not surprising because even if the Giants aren't sold on any of these guys, you want everybody thinking that you are, because you want value in that pick. Like, I'm trading you this guy. I really want him really bad. This is tough for me to do. I'm going to have a hard time trading you this pick. I love this kid. I love this guy. And I think that the Giants need to be able to play that card. They could be saying, hey, you know what? You send people to go watch Baker Mayfield. They may be laughing. We don't know. Like, Gettleman could be sitting back laughing like, yeah, send them to see Josh Allen. Like, you don't know, right? So, I think that the Giants need
a dark horse team moves up, like a New Orleans, San
who
Diego,
knows?
Cincinnati. Like, they have a quarterback for now, but
You never know, and that's the beauty of really what's going on here.
Watch Miami. Watch any of those. And there's a lot of teams that need quarterbacks that aren't really playing that hand right now.
Yeah, and even the teams like if they signed a McCarron or if they signed a Case Keenum, they're still looking. They're still looking. Like, don't be their horse is not hitched to that wagon for the next 12 years. Like, those are stopgap. Even like the Cleveland with Tyrod Taylor, those are stopgaps so that you can draft a kid and not have to rush him in. If you bring him into camp and the kid's lights out, you play him. But you don't have to. You're not held to the fire to say we're going to draft this kid and then throw him to the wolves. You have a competent quarterback there that could at least get you through if you needed them to. But there's nobody that was signed besides Kirk Cousins that is the answer, including Teddy Bridgewater. To go rapid fire, 973, what you want to talk about? What's your next point? Hold on. My computer went shitty. Here you go, 973, what's up?
Hey, guys, back on the line. But I wanted to talk about trading down. I'm big on the trading down. I think we should again, Darius Geis, I think, fits our scheme more than any other running back in the draft, mainly because he's the best tackle-to-tackle runner, And on top of that, if we trade down, we could potentially get 2 first-rounders with, we could get, what was the DN's name from NC? What's his name? Someone help me out.
Bradley Chubb?
Who are you talking about?
The DN. Bradley Chubb. Not Bradley Chubb.
Yeah, Bradley Chubb.
Yeah, Bradley Chubb. Sorry about that.
You're good.
Since we traded Jason Pierre-Paul, I think we really need another DN that will hold down that side, And
I think you're right. I think that, but here's the thing, guys, and I think that we really need to take this into consideration, right? So look at the picks they have now. What do they have, Tim? 4 picks in the top 70?
Yeah, I'm looking now.
Right.
Yeah,
I think I saw something the other day. 4 picks in the top 70. Give me their picks. Can you find their picks? I'm computer illiterate.
Giants have obviously
2?
the second pick overall. They have the second pick in the second round.
So what's that? 34?
Yeah. Something like that. Whatever.
Well, help me out, Tim. I don't want to be guessing here. Let's give our callers valid information.
I'm giving you the exact pick.
I need numbers, Tim. You just said the second. Go ahead. What's the next one?
The next one is the third round, second pick, and the third round, fifth.
You think I'm doing fucking math, Tim? Hold on. Giants. What's that? Pick 66, and then they have 69 too, right? Giants draft picks. Let's Google it. Giants 2018 draft picks. Let's see. I want the numbers. Who's got the numbers?
Now, you really need the numbers. What's the difference?
Because I like numbers, Tim. I like to be exact with what we have and what we're looking at. That's why. Okay. I mean, if we're going to give our callers everything, let's give our callers,
Do we give our callers
we need
everything?
To do.
I mean, let's be honest.
We should.
I mean,
we give them good.
We do the best we can, but
information.
is that really everything we can do?
Yeah, I think we do a pretty good job of it.
And I know what you're talking about as far as you want one of the blue chippers. as far as trading down in the top 10. I want to get into that right now. Let's say the Buffalo trade happens. We drop down to 12, which the haul that they would have to give us will set us up for a good 3 years. Having multiple first-round picks probably the next year, and then another probably the one year after that as well. I have no problem because the fact is they would have to give us 2 first-rounders, and if they're 2 first-rounders, legitimate, they should be starters, right, James? You would think so?
That's you would hope if they're first rounders. If it's not a quarterback, you would hope that they are going to get 2 players that are going to contribute right away. Yes, exactly.
And then they would give the second rounders. Second rounders would be about the same thing, right? It'd be if they're not starters,
you would hope that you would get some
contribution.
contribution. Yes, you would hope that you again, unless it's a quarterback, you would hope.
Yep.
Yes. And we're right. So here we go. All right. So it's 2, 34, 66, and 69, and I want to go somewhere where I think you're going as well, right? So let's say hypothetically, and again, I would like to say Buffalo is the key team. I'd like to see them get into the top 10 if I'm going to make the deal with Buffalo. But let's any team, pick a team, any team, and look at what you got if you're the Giants, right? So let's say any team within the top 12, because Buffalo is the team that everybody wants to throw there. But ideally, you'd like to stay before 12, right? So what's it going to cost any team? What's it going to cost any team to get there? What you're looking at is you're going to trade back and get their first-round pick anywhere between 3 and 12, which is a gold mine. Great. You're going to get probably another second-round pick, so you're talking about another pick between
at least one. Because
I'm still going.
The Jets
I'm still going.
Yep.
Yes. So between 32 and 64, you're going to get another one. You're going to get another pick between 65 and around 97 or so. So if you're the Giants, and there's going to be more on top of this, where I'm going with this is if you're the Giants, if it's Buffalo and you're getting 2 second-round picks, another second-round pick, do you see the value in where the Giants would have multiple picks in the second, third rounds, where you're now conceivably bringing in 6 to 7 players in this draft in the top 70 to 90 players in the draft? That's like 1 out of every 10 players you're bringing in.
And the biggest thing about that is I trust Gettleman to do his homework. He's a good drafter. He's proven that. So most of those guys should be hits. And not only would they be hits, we would be really technically, quote-unquote, cap heaven for 4 years. Right? With all those draft picks, and you can rebuild your roster and take players that will help you all over the roster. You could just take the best player available. If that ends up being a defensive end, a defensive tackle, a linebacker, a cornerback, a safety, you need help at all of those positions. I know from weeks ago I've been screaming that this roster is broken, and even if you can say that you're going to have your starters plugged in, that's not enough to get you through the course of a 16-game season. You need players, you need depth, you need guys that can step in right away, and the Giants need a plethora of young talent, and they're in position where if they don't love one of these quarterbacks with the JPP trade, I read yesterday that there could be more trades coming. So if the Giants continue to acquire third-round pick here, fourth-round pick there, it gives them a lot of bullets in their gun to be able to replenish this roster with young, cap-friendly talent to where they can be a force to be reckoned with down the line. It's not a bad strategy whatsoever. 646, let's get to you.
I just
what are
have
you
a
thinking?
question.
What do you want to talk about?
My name is Mike. I'm calling from Queens. I live next to St. John.
Mike, go ahead, buddy.
We're doing on that.
I'm good. Just wanted to ask, it's a scenario. If you had an opportunity to trade, say, for instance, you have the Bills and Denver, right? So would you rather trade with Denver and say, for example, you get that pick, that 5th pick, you get a second round this year and a second round next year. Just for example. Or you trade with the Bills and you get those 2 first-round picks and next year's first-round pick. Which one would you take? Considering the fact that if you trade with Denver, you might get a Hall of Fame type player in terms of whether it's Bradley Chubb or whoever.
That's what I was thinking. Like, so if Buffalo can't get into the top 10, and again, thanks for the call. We really appreciate you guys calling, listening, your thoughts. Some great thoughts. But if you're I'm of the ilk where if I'm going to trade back, I've said it earlier on the show, I want to be in the top 8 because if I can acquire second, third round picks, and even so if you're telling me that Denver doesn't have the picks that Buffalo has to give me, so I'm going to lose a first round pick. Well, does Denver have a player that I can use? Do they have a young player that I like that I want to bring onto my roster? Can I take a first or second round pick from them for the following year? Like, all those things are open because of the fact that if I'm trading with Denver, I'm walking away with probably Chubb, Barkley, Nelson, or Fitzpatrick. And if I'm the Giants and I'm saying to myself, look at those 4 players that would help us tremendously right away in 4 positions of need. If I could bring any of one of those 4 guys in plus get picks for this year and next year, I'll take that deal. And if Denver's willing to do it, I think Denver's the smartest one because I think Denver really wants Rosen. I really think I think Elway, despite what you may be hearing, I got a feeling that Rosen would be his guy, that he's a guy ready to win right now. I think they plug him in from day one and he played from day one. I think that Rosen makes the most sense for them. I think he fits with Elway, with his personality. I think Denver's the team that would make most sense for the Giants to move back with because then it really doesn't matter what. See, I'm of the ilk where I think Chubb would go 4. If somebody doesn't make a King's ransom offer to Cleveland, I think they would take Chubb at 4. I don't think they would go running back with what they've done in free agency. I think they'd go Chubb at 4, and I think the Giants can still get their pick of Barkley or Nelson at 5, or Fitzpatrick for that matter. And come away with a great player, a potentially Hall of Fame type talent at one of the 4 positions of need, and get extra picks. 732, where you calling? Well, we know where you're calling from. You're calling from Jersey. What's your next thought? What do you want to talk about?
Hey, Jimmy, James, how are you? It's Omar. We've been talking.
Omar, hey, buddy, what's up?
What's up? How are you?
What's going on, buddy? What do you want to talk about? But we appreciate you calling in.
Yeah, you know what it is, though? I think you kind of answered my question, though, because I was just saying, as you know, I've been saying all along that I want Barkley or trade back. But I agree with you. Buffalo, that might be too far back. That's a concern of mine. You say you want to stay in the top 8. I'll even go top 10. My question, was going to be, well, who else has given us a better offer than Buffalo? And you seem to think it's Denver.
I think that it could be. I think that it could be Denver. I mean, I don't know, right? Like, you don't know what any friggin' team is thinking right now. Like, you don't know if somebody's going to just love one of these quarterbacks and say, you know what, I'll give you a first round. I'll give you a bunch of picks this year, first, second, third, which would pretty much match. You figure what Denver's going to have to offer. Any team in that top 10, 12. Buffalo has the most bullets, but you got to move probably the farthest back. But if some team's going to offer a King's ransom where you're getting additional picks this year, next year, possibly the year following, and it's a team that's going to probably draft a quarterback and go through some growing pains, so you think that you're going to get value in those picks over the next couple of years, that's intriguing to me. So if and you never know if one of these teams like one of these kids that much, you don't know what they're going to offer when they're on the clock. No one knows what they're going to offer. It could be beyond ridiculous.
And that's where I am with the Buffalo pick. The desperation that they're going to have to go up and get that 2 pick, the amount of picks that we get probably wouldn't come close to what actually the draft value would be. Would be like probably double.
Oh,
the
absolutely.
other thing is if you trade back to Denver, or just for example, you guys got to realize we're in prime position again because these are the top non-quarterback players. So if we wanted to trade back again, we'd probably get another haul.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, so you don't, and that's why until you're on the clock, really nobody knows what the hell is going to go on. and again, this is all under the assumption that the Giants are not head over heels in love with one of these quarterbacks. If they're head over heels with one of these quarterbacks and Cleveland ends up taking Josh Allen and Darnold, we've heard that is, might be the guy and they may not be able to pass on him, maybe they just stay where they are. And that's why I also don't think that you're going to see any trade before the draft. I think that the Giants would be wise. I think the Giants would be wise to just right now be like, oh, man, like we love one of these kids at quarterback. And just keep saying that even if you don't mean it.
Right.
Because once Darnold goes and then, it's live and the bullets are flying and these teams are now under the gun and they need to make a move to get the guy because you don't know who the Jets want at 3 and you can't wait at 5 and hope that Rosen gets to you if that's your guy and the Jets may take him. All of a sudden teams become desperate and the packages now become over and above what you're looking at if you would accept an offer right now. So I think Gettleman would be wise to not do a friggin' thing and just wait and see, how desperate one of these teams are going to get.
I agree. Yeah.
Any other thought, Omar, on JPP or anything like that you want to get to?
No, look, I mean, obviously, the guy, he helped us win a Super Bowl. I thank him for his contributions, but now life has to go on. I mean, it was a good deal we got in return for it, and that's it. That's business.
Hey, man, that's right. And it's business. It's not personal. We tip your cap, JPP, what he did in 2011, phenomenal season. Always left something to be desired for me following. I don't think there was any second thought by Gettleman in making this deal. I think it was a great move to be able to get out from under that contract. And as always, Omar, thanks for calling in. Thanks for listening. We're not hanging up on you. We're going to stay. We get to all of our callers multiple times if we can. We got a little while left. 716. What's your second thought? What you want to talk about, buddy?
What's going on, fellas? I was trying to give you a call in regards to what you think about the Giants taking I know everybody's saying they go with Denver with that number 5 pick, but I'm thinking Buffalo with all those two firsts, 2 seconds, 2 thirds. I think they'd be more than willing to drop 5 of those picks. 2 firsts, the 12 to 22nd. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you can get even more than that. I think you get their first 2, and I think you can take a bounty from Buffalo. But here's the question about Buffalo is, do you love one of these 4 guys that aren't quarterbacks that much? Because if you love one of these guys that much, then you're not getting them. And now you're trading out of the top 10, and now you're in a different tier of player, which necessarily isn't a bad thing. It's just a different strategy. So it really comes down to what the Giants think of some of these positional players.
Now, listen, this is what I was saying. They could let that number 2 go. Because if it's not going to be Darnold, one of these outright, I love this quarterback guy, which I don't think is going to happen. I think Cleveland is going to snatch him up. Let that number 2 go. I think they need to really get that offensive line together. Maybe with that 12th pick, get one of the best linemen out there. Get Lamar Jackson in that first round too. Get Sonny Michel in that early second round with that second pick. And I think they could build from there. I don't think they should actually try to go ahead and go in on that number 2 pick with a maybe. I think they could sound that offensive lineman, even if they go 2 offensive linemen in the first one, get Sonny Michel and Lamar Jackson. I think he'll fall to that second pick in the second round. I think they could really work it that way and still get another 2, 3 from Buffalo and even a first. I think that's the best way to go about sounding it all.
Hey, man, I would not, and you know what, man, I wouldn't be able to really argue that, right? I mean, if you're telling me that, they're going to get 2 first-rounders, 2 second-rounders, 2 third-rounders, and another pick next year or something like that, man, it's difficult to pass up. You would hope that the Giants have done enough of their homework to be confident in the fact that they're walking. Here's my thing, right? If you have the second pick in the draft, to me, you want to walk away with a top player. Like, there's a chance here to trade back, get a ton of picks, and walk away with a top talent. And yeah, I think that there's talent to be had at 12 and 20-something, and there's definitely talent there. Don't get me wrong. I mean, you're talking about the top 25 players in all of college football. There's tremendous value to be had there. But let's not fool ourselves that, the gold, the top tier of this draft is in the top 10, much like it is in every draft. You find steals later. There's other players to be had, yes. But if you're in the top 10 there's a player there probably that you love. And to me, there's 4 guys that if you're not talking quarterbacks, if you're going to take quarterbacks off the board, then you're looking at 4 guys that are head and above everybody else. And it really comes down to how the Giants feel about, those 4 guys. If the Giants feel like if they walk away with one of those 4 guys plus picks, then you're going to have to stay in the top 8 or 9 in order to get one of them. If the Giants aren't sold on one of those players and they say to themselves, you know what, we'd be okay not getting one of these guys because of the value we would be able to acquire later in the round, later this year and maybe in the following years to come, then you take the Buffalo pick. Right, Tim? I mean, it's the Buffalo offer.
Yeah, I mean, I understand where you're coming with the blue chip picks, and I'm on the mindset of your draft people, do their homework. The more picks, the more players you should get. Obviously, the more picks, better chance of hitting on people. Instead of, let's say, we take Bradley Chubb, and I know he's not going to be a bust. Well, there's no guarantee he's not going to be a bust.
No
but
guarantee.
Let's say he's just a bust.
But I got you.
But then let's say he's a bust. Then, that was 1 pick instead of 4 picks where I might have hit on 3 of the 4.
Well, that's the thing, right? Because you have to believe that if you're going to take the guy there and not take the Godfather offer, then you believe that player is going to be significantly better and a game changer that none of those other players, for the depth that they would offer, being solid players, would be able to have an impact like this guy, right?
And
if you're taking Nelson, Fitzpatrick, if you're taking any of the quarterbacks, Nelson, Fitzpatrick, Barkley, or Chubb, you're expecting any one of those 8 guys, and that's why I said top 8. You're expecting any one of those 8 guys to be game changers for you. Right?
Yeah, 100% starter should be locked in for at least the next 5 to 10 years.
So the Giants right now are in the position to say, are one of these guys that game changer, and is that game changer more important than having a plethora of picks of other good players, but I'm not getting what could be an all-pro, all-time, phenomenal Hall of Fame type player for the franchise. You really have to weigh those balances. If you love the player and you trade him back, you take him.
Yeah. The other thing with Bradley Chubb is, you guys got to realize we're going to be playing a 3-4. I don't know 100% that puts him in the best position. I think he's more of a 4-3 D end.
So do I, Tim. So do I.
And the other guy I'm going to give you guys, let's say we trade back with Buffalo, look for a guy like Marcus Davenport to be the pick.
How about Roquan?
I like Roquan Smith, but he's more of an overachiever. So you could get him later in the first round. So we could probably get him.
Well, that's what I'm saying, right? So, like, if we walked away, let's say they walked away. Let's say they took the Buffalo deal, and they end up walking away with what's the tackle's name? McGlinskey? How do you put it, right?
Yeah.
Right? So let's say they address the tackle spot, and they bring in that kid, and then they bring in a linebacker like Smith later on in the draft. Like, wow, right? So, I mean, like, if you can, it all depends also on who you're bringing in. What's up?
Yep. Yeah, so
it all depends on who you're bringing in with the picks.
With that scenario, we would shore up the tackle spot, at least give competition to Eric Flowers, and he might even have to move in the guard, which would, I think, be a plus as well if he could play that. And then you would bring better linebacker core, put in Roquan Smith next to Al Ogletree, and on top of that, at the beginning of the second round, we could grab a guy like Willie Hernandez who could take over that other guard spot.
And then with the other second round pick, what can you get a running back? And then with your third round pick, with your 3 third round picks, can you? I mean, and that's the intrigue to making the trade and saying yes to Buffalo. we could argue all day if the players that they're going to want are then going to be there, and that's the risk as well. Like, are you trading back and missing on a guy that you want? Because once you trade back, you're pretty much at the mercy of everybody else.
Well, yes and no. But the thing is, Gettleman has proven if he likes a player, he will go up and get him, and we would have the draft capital to do that.
Yeah, but then you're giving up like the picks. Then you're giving up some of the draft capitals to trade up to get a player in the late first or second round. That, I mean, I could have had maybe one of those players in another position that was an all-pro type position. Now I'm giving up picks. I don't. It really depends on what it is. So if they acquire an additional late round pick from Buffalo in the deal that they're moving back and they're going to throw that one in, like I don't want to give up a fourth round pick to move up. And like, if you're going to take those picks, like, sit pretty and take them, in my opinion. Like, just
I agree with that. I never
you made the deal because if you make that deal, you're making the deal because you feel like you're getting tremendous value because of how deep the draft is at multiple positions through the top 3 rounds. So then why are you wasting those picks to go up and get another player that you know what I'm saying though? Like, do you see where I'm going with it? Is like, now you're like playing with yourself a little bit. Like, just like, if you're going to take the Godfather offer, sit there and take the best player on the board. Don't be wasting those picks then to come up and trade a guy that 30 other teams passed on.
Yeah, I just want to put it out there, guys. I'm looking at the running back depth in this draft. I mean, you're getting down to, like, I'm looking at like the 15th player, actually 16th player rated on WalterFootball.com, which is John Kelly from Tennessee, and I would take him all day. And then obviously they're saying you get him in probably, 4th, 5th round. That's why you can wait on a running back, and that's what we should be doing, is waiting on the running backs.
I totally agree with you. Agree with you.
And especially with the depth, just the depth at guard and center in this draft, make Quentin Nelson. You don't need to take Quentin Nelson that early. Would I love Quentin Nelson? Yes. I love the guy. Not only do I love the way he plays, he's a Giants fan. Who doesn't want a Giants fan on the Giants? I saw the guy talking to Mayock on NFL Network saying, hey, they're like, why should somebody take you this high? He's like, well, Philly's going to have a really good offensive line. Oh, I didn't mean to, no shot at you, Giants. He's pretty much, he wants to be on the Giants. I love the fact that he wants to be on the Giants. Because the way I look at it is, if the kid's growing up a Giants fan, he's pretty much going to be here, especially Quentin Nelson. He's going to be here for the rest of his career.
That doesn't – see, I don't give a fuck about that. I really just don't. Like, just take the best goddamn player. I just don't. Like, I don't. Like, it's not going to hold any. If I got Chubb higher than Nelson on my board, and Chubb was a Cowboy fan, and fucking he was a kid, I'm taking Chubb. Yeah, I don't give a shit.
I just want to put it out there. For example, Eli Apple grew up a Philadelphia Eagles fan.
Come on. Seriously. It's not Eli Apple's fault that Jerry Reese took him where he did.
I'm going to tell you right now, just to get down Eli Apple, if he gets his shit together, I'll be back to being a fan. I like the way he plays. Other than this past year, the me crap this past year, which I don't know where all of a sudden that came from, because that was not his rookie season. I'm all for Eli Apple if he goes back to the way he played his rookie season.
Can we get into the $15 million lawsuit before we wrap up shop?
Yeah, let's go. You want to talk about Odell? I know you want to do some Odell hating. Let's go, Captain Negative. Hit your music.
Fan, because they get triggered that you're saying a bad thing about Odell Beckham Jr. But I mean, he's always in the fucking news. Maybe he didn't do nothing, right? Maybe this guy's a jerk off, the guy who's doing the lawsuit. But
yeah.
Usually if something goes like what do you think there's some merit? Like if the court said, yeah, we'll hear the case?
You know what?
I don't know. I'm sick of hearing his name and not having it be like, wow, did you see the route that he ran there? Like, wow, did you see the separation Odell created on there? You know, did you see his ability to break a tackle? I'm sick of talking about Odell not playing football. Sick of it.
Oh, I agree with that. And perfect world, we don't hear from Odell until football season. But he has that kind of fanfare where whether he's doing it, somebody else is filming him, regardless, 24/7. As far as him with this whole fight thing, I'm on the mindset, a lot of these guys, especially a guy that's such high profile like Odell is, he's a huge target. So I don't even – I take it as a great assault until I see the actual facts of what's going on. Because these guys get seen, and Odell's going to get picked out of a crowd regardless that he can get targeted. Where,
but
a lot of these guys
how much is
targeted.
it? But how much does it speak to, right? But how much does it speak to where the Giants have the Giants have every reason to sit down and negotiate with him and sign him long term right now, right?
Yep.
I mean, you would think that coming off the injury, what he's asking for, that the Giants probably would be able to sit down realistically with his agent and say, coming off the injury, yeah, we know you want 20. We're willing to offer you a huge bonus, but, versus the cap, you're going to make like 16 to 17 a year. So, there's going to be 1 year maybe where you make 14 and the number drops a little bit and you play with the numbers. But, primarily you're going to get your $16 to $17 million contract. And that's going to help the Giants out because they're going to be able to control it. They're going to be able to spread it out over a long period of time, and it's going to help that everything points to that they should be having that conversation now so that he doesn't go lights out this year, and then they have to have the conversation next year, and they haven't spoken to him at all. After he came out and said, I want a new contract, I'm not playing this preseason. And the Giants pretty much said,
with all the
fuck
crap
you,
going on,
you're not having that conversation.
He's losing his leverage. That's what it is.
He's completely lost his. But it was all. But now the Giants are playing a risky game here because unless they know something that we don't know, right? But it's amazing that video came out, and then 2 days later, free agency started, and we haven't heard any. The Giants have no comment. They didn't say any. It's weeks later now. The video with the cocaine. They haven't mentioned. Nobody's mentioned it.
Nope.
That's odd, right, Tim? I mean, and Odell hasn't come out.
I'm not trying to get
we saw the video of Odell. We've seen Odell at the video of Sterling Shepard's wedding dancing, and now we saw this came out. But Odell really hasn't been heard of too much since that video came out either, has he?
Not really. And the funny thing is, other than getting sued, yeah.
Other than getting sued, right? Where has he come out and made a statement on the video? Where have the Giants come out and made a statement? Where did that story go? And you would think, like to me, no news in reference to that isn't good news. Like usually they would have come out and said, this is a nothing incident. We've spoken to the player. Blah. It was no comment and nothing.
Now, I'm not saying this is true. Let's get a little conspiracy theorist. What if it's the Giants people putting it out there? Like they're like, listen, let's kill his leverage. He has with coming off an injury and all this crap in the off season, he has no leverage on us. Period. So don't talk to us about a contract, or big money, until we come talk to you, because you lost all leverage.
But here's the danger in that, though, Tim, is he comes back next year and goes for 1,600 yards, 14 touchdowns.
Oh, you're going to pay him more.
You're going to pay him $1 million. You're going to pay him millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. You're going to either have to franchise him and get into that war. Like there is no reason for the Giants not to have that conversation now. And the fact that they're not having that conversation now is concerning. And to not talk about that and
think
just say that we're not Giant fans because we bring this up is ridiculous. Fucking ridiculous.
Well, the contract, I think, is actually getting talked about, not only with Odell, but I think with Landon Collins. The biggest thing I see from that, the JPP trade happened. So the cap number is there. They're like, listen, all you got to do is sign this once the season starts. Then it'll go to the next year or whatever, whatever it is. Or whatever way they want to work it out. I think the numbers are getting talked about with both guys. And honestly, as a Giants fan, you already know where we all stand. We want Landon Collins signed first.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, don't get me started on that. I mean, if you're giving me a choice between both of the quarterbacks, then yes, by all means, I'm taking him over anybody. You're right.
Yeah, let's get Landon Collins signed. And the thing is, the quicker we need to sign these guys, because you already know it's always come next year that there's going to be another bar that they got to go higher than. So get it signed early before we got to jump another bar of whoever the top safety is getting paid or the top wide receiver is getting paid. We have to beat those bars before they actually get put out there. And with Odell, I'll be taking out hey, let's get this extension done. I know you were talking about $20 million a year. You know that's not happening, especially with all the crap.
Yeah, definitely.
So I just be like, you know what Antonio Brown's contract is? You can get that, and I would just leave it at that. I'm like, you can't tell me you're better than Antonio Brown right now, and we're giving you Antonio Brown's contract. That's what you should get.
Yeah. I got a real concern with just all this shit. It's just like enough is enough. Like I got ripped up for every time I mention his name. I get called a hater. And they said to me, well, what does he do? But what does he do? I got into it last night with a couple of tards on fucking Facebook. What does he do between the numbers? And I'm like, he speared Norman. He pissed like a dog. He dropped the passes in Green Bay. Like, I mean, you can't. And if it was one thing, Tim, if it was one thing, and it was just this lawsuit, or if it was just the video, but guys, when you start looking at the list of stuff that it's been, it's just it's to the point now where it's ridiculous, and you would hope that the kid, considering his talent, just would just stop and
yeah, we all want him to grow up. We all want him to grow
enough
up.
Already.
We get it, but it's a lot of fame to get put on a young kid at that point. Let's put it this way, Eli Apple doesn't even have the close to that kind of amount of fame, and he obviously he couldn't handle his second year for whatever reason. The thing with Odell is, man, I don't want him to see play. I want him to be on another team. I'm with you. I'm old school Giants. You don't necessarily need a top wide receiver, but it's nice. I'm not gonna lie. It's nice having a top wide receiver.
It is nice having a top wide receiver, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much of a I don't think it's necessary to win. I think that if you got,
especially when we have a Sterling Shepard right there, it's not. Our wide receiver core, with Odell is stupid good, as long as everybody stays healthy. But Sterling Shepard just showed me he could be a number one if he has to be this past offseason. And the other thing we got to realize with Odell's leverage, at this point, you didn't see nothing from this past season. Odell did anything. So that's one season gone. One season gone. He's doing the off season, whatever he's doing. How can he say, pay me as a top wide receiver? I haven't seen you play. I haven't seen you play in over a year. Or really do anything.
Yeah, I don't see how he doesn't really have any a leg to stand on. Pretty much. Pardon the pun.
Yeah.
Well, we got around a couple minutes left. Tim, anything else you want to touch base on before we say goodbye, get our Sunday afternoons back? I want
to give a little.
I got a little mononade cooking. Tim, you know what I'm making? I'm making fried raviolis tonight.
Oh, there you go.
I'm making fried raviolis.
I want to give a little under the radar props to Gettleman for signing John Moreau. Now, I know John Moreau is going to get suspended for the first 4 games.
Oh, yeah, no problem with that. That's a
but
Giant
people couldn't understand why he signed for the veteran minimum, because Gettleman knew this was going down. So, props to him, because he was getting $3 million a year before that, but he signed, I think it was a 2-year deal, veteran minimum. It might just be a 1-year deal, veteran minimum. But
and I think that kid's a pretty good player. He's gonna play hard. He's gonna be a nice rotational guy. Yeah.
And that's the other thing people got to realize with it. JPP leaving the defensive end. Yes, would you like JPP at defensive end? Sure, but in a 3-4, you don't need top defensive ends, because they're the ones taking up blockers. They're supposed to be literally just letting the linebacker core. They're pretty much the offensive line for the linebacker core. They're just taking up blockers so you can't touch the other guys. That's what they're supposed to be doing in a 3-4. So let's just get these big boys in there.
I think that I read something the other day, and we'll try to maybe end on this, where I don't know how true it is, and we're going to see over the course of the next month or so before the draft really how true this really is, but. I read something the other day, and again, all this misinformation coming out, who knows what to believe, who not to believe, but that the Giants really are under the impression that the entire roster needs a rebuild. If that's the case, and the entire roster needs a rebuild, then I think the trade back really makes the most move for them to retool this roster. I think that Giant fans really, I think for as much as everybody thought that they're in win now mode, I think over the next month, if we start seeing maybe a couple other guys get moved via trade, which was another thing I read, that the Giants are not done making moves, that they may be looking to acquire more picks. If they do that and then take the Godfather offer and trade back, then you got to figure that the Giants are under the impression that there's going to be a complete rebuild of the roster. And then that leads us to the question of why hasn't Eli been addressed whatsoever? Why wouldn't that be done? So there's a ton of questions here that are going to be revealed over the next 5 to 6 weeks, Giant fans. We don't know where it's going. We try to give you an educational opinion based on all the news that's coming out, that be it misinformation, real news, fake news. We try to give you the best of what we can make of it. We can't tell you guys how much we appreciate you guys listening on Wednesday nights and now Sunday mornings. More than you know, we appreciate you guys listening, the comments, sharing, calling in. The lines were lighting up this morning like they have the last couple of Sundays. So you guys stick with us over the course of the next couple of weeks, and we'll bring you every piece of information we can leading up to the NFL draft on the second pick. Again, we're going to be live on draft night. When that comes down, when the Giants are on the clock, we'll be with you live reaction. That's going to be a fun night. So keep listening, keep calling in, keep letting your friends know about us. And for T Merritt on what's your Twitter handle, Tim? What's that Twitter handle you got?
It's T Merritt 51.
T Merritt 51.
That's right. It's 2 R's.
And if you want to follow Captain, I'm going to follow. It's Captain Negative on Twitter. That is my new name. It is at. I couldn't. Do you believe Captain Negative wasn't?
Really?
It was
Captain Negative.
Well, I could make my name Captain Negative, but I couldn't do at Captain Negative. It was like it had to be at Captain Negative, like in 18 million numbers, and I wasn't doing that. So I'm still at
Captain Negatives out there.
Yeah, so I'm Captain Negative, still at the trifecta. When I say the, that's not the. That's not the, it's the THEE Trifecta 24 at Trifecta 24 if you want to follow. Good old Captain Negative. Team Merit 51. Also Bleed Big Blue at Bleed Big Blue on Twitter, Facebook. Share away because we're taking this shit over when it comes to Giant podcasts. Love you guys. Thanks for listening. Enjoy your Sunday, Tim. I'm going to go make my fried raviolis. What's on your menu tonight? What are you cooking? You ordering in?
We're gonna see, man. You know, I just got home from the beach. That's why.
This son of
you know,
a bitch.
I'm a little.
It's freezing by me. You're at the beach?
Yeah, man. Well, I had a beer festival. I was out. It was beer, bourbon, and barbecue.
I went out to the grocery store this morning. It was flurrying.
No. I had short sleeve shirt on. It was nice, like 60 degrees, right on, Cape Fear River.
Well, for those of you that are freezing, stay warm. Enjoy your Sunday. For those of you that are warm, fuck you.
Fuck you.
And it's going to be spring for everybody soon. Bleed Big Blue, Giant fans. Always, we're out.
Captain Negative.